Hello there everybody, Fast Lego Studios here, and welcome back guys to week number 7 of building up the Lego life-sized Captain Rex sculpture. Let's jump right into it. Alright guys, and diving right the way into week number 7 of building up Captain Rex. Last week's episode we really nailed it with the progress, building up quite a little bit more height to the model and getting a lot of important detail all in a place. So this week's episode will be kind of continuing, adding in even more detail, adding in the visor of Captain Rex, getting that all nicely in a place, getting that outline and then the visor, and making it look a lot more iconic than what we have right here. But as we continue turning the model around here, you guys can see that towards the back side, I want to get even more height going on back here. Last week's episode, we just about started this area of the build as we sloped this inwards. This week's episode, I'm going to be building up even more vertical height to all of this, building this up to a higher level here, and getting all of that in a place. A lot of building still to go here as there's quite a lot of height to be still added, but hopefully with all of this being bricks, it would go all relatively fast. And then towards the top of the build here, you guys can see that I've got the armature or the frame for the armature that's going to be going right in the center of the build. This I'm just hoping to expand even further, get even more connection points all the way throughout the build, and secure it to as many different locations of the helmet as possible. But with all of that being in mind, guys, let's dive in to those progress updates. Alright guys, and taking a closer look over at Captain Rex's helmet with the very first progress updates, you guys can see that I've just about got the entire visor all in a place. Very close to finishing it, as all that is left to do is really just add in a couple more plates just going right about here, and then that will be all of the visor. And then all that will be left after that is really get the very next outline, the blue marking just running up above that, and then after that the weld line, and then after that have that final dome to finish all of this off. And that will be the entire helmet all complete. So we're approaching the finale of the helmet very soon here, which I'm really excited to see how all of this will turn out. But nonetheless, taking a closer look over at the visor here, you guys can see that I've mainly achieved this effect of a really nice curve just running down here by using plates. Quite a large number of plates were used to get this across, but it looks really nice. And that is quite good. Up the front of the visor here, you guys can see that I've got the slope running right the way down here. I've noticed that Lego does not produce any Lego slopes that are this length here. So to get that very steep, essentially, length over such a large size, Lego just doesn't produce any of those parts. So I really had to work with just Lego bricks. But in the end, I'm still really happy with how all of that looks. Nonetheless, there just kind of had to pixelate things a little bit more, but still, it looks really nice in the end result. And towards the side of the build, you guys can see that I've got a little bit more height done to the weld line. I've just been expanding that up slightly and really interlocking it with the layers going up, but nonetheless there, you guys can see that I've got the weld line started here from last week's episode and really just built it up all the way over here, and soon enough we'll be just curving this in and finishing that one off. Towards the back of the build, you guys can see that I've got a little bit more height built up back here. Not too much height, but just a little bit. I've really been trying to focus on building the front of the model once again, but just building it up slightly to a little bit of a further extent. Soon enough we'll be getting this plate extension over here carried all the way over to here, kind of continue that shape just running upwards and over the build. So a lot of plate building still to go and a lot of shaping, but aside from that there, that's really how the entire back of the model is all built up. And towards the top of the build here, you guys can see that I've added on a little bit more structure to the entire model with having a little bit more of these 2x8 bricks in place for a little bit better stability going from side over to side. But at this point in time, I could literally just about pick up the entire construction with one hand, and the construction is really solid and should really not be going anywhere. So that's quite a success, that the entire build is really nice and durable now, and I really could just pick it up by the center and carry it wherever I want. But with all of that being in mind, guys, let's move on to the time lapse and finish off the visor of Captain Rex's helmet. Alright guys, and here we are after the time lapse as I've finished building up the entire visor. And taking a closer look over at that visor, you guys can see that after the time lapse I even did a little bit of my own modifications, as all of this is slightly inset by a single Lego brick, making it look a lot nicer. I've done a little bit of my own tweaks here and there to the visor, just improving it in points that I thought can do a little bit better. But then taking a closer look over up to the top of the build, you guys can see that I've started getting the weld line right the way in place. Still plenty of building to go up here with a lot more plates and a lot more bricks, but for now this is a really nice start, as we still have that entire dome to fill up the build, and that will essentially be the cherry on top. And taking a closer look over onto the back of the build, you guys can see that I've got this area here a little bit more built up. Just trying to make this area catch up with the front and really just level it off as I continue building up the helmet. But taking a closer look at it, you guys can see that I've got those plates, just as I mentioned earlier, just built up, just crossed over here, and then just getting that geometric pattern here. Now all that is left to do is really just build it up and then begin curving it in with the final dome. But then aside from that there, you guys may also notice this little hole just right about here. And that hole there is really to accommodate for this semicircle here to attach right the way in a place. Now you guys probably may be asking me why go ahead and attach a semicircle in a place, and my simple answer there is really I'll be having a full circle to build up right here. And then if you guys really take a closer look at the backs of the helmets from the Clone Wars, or really just from the Star Wars trilogy overall, there's like this circle right the way back here, just a little design I guess being placed to the build, but nonetheless there, what I'll be doing is having this half of the circle being attached in a place, and then to finish that half off and attach the second half, I'll be using the second half of a circle, which is just literally built up vertically here. And when those two halves of the build are attached, you guys can see that it forms a perfect circle. Now surely this is not here to stay in these kind of colors, because that's really random and doesn't look too good. I have a bricklink order coming in very soon, which should have these parts to finish up that design. So this here is simply to get the concept across, and simply for me to understand what am I doing before I actually jump in and build it on the final model. And to really stabilize that semicircle right the way at the bottom, you guys can see that it's pretty easily able to slide back and forth. I'll be using something probably as simple as a Lego brick. Just gonna attach right the way under here, and then once we get that into place, it's nice and solid with the rest of the construction. But really aside from that there, I didn't really get too much progress within the structure armature of the build, But that is just about everything that I've gotten done for this week's episode. So with all of that being in mind, guys, let's move out into the outro and finish off this video. And there we are, guys, at the end of building up Captain Rex for week number 7. We've made some amazing progress in this week's episode as we really attached probably the most iconic part of the entire helmet overall, the Captain Rex visor. That part, that little part of the build, is like the trademark to me of this entire helmet. It really just ties together every other part of the build, just all the detail that we have going on around the build, and even all of the geometric shaping. So without it, the build would just not look the same. You guys can see that I've got that all nice and built up, and in the end, I've really just went through plenty of different designs to get that across, but I'm really happy with what my final design came out to look like. And then moving on to what else we got done in this week's episode. So we built up the back of the build just slightly a little bit more, just making the back of the build catch up with the front, and design a little bit of little details that are going to be going onto the back of the build as well. But moving on to next week's episode and what progress I want to make then is really to build up the sides of the helmet a lot more. You guys can see that the sides currently are quite lacking Lego pieces, so next week's episode really going to be focusing upon building much more of that up, and those sides as well really do involve upon the brickling order that I have coming in very soon as well. I hope I get that in to finish off the sides and the back of the build with those small little touches. And as goes for the area up top of the visor, we'll be building up the dome of the helmet, getting that final little touch of the build into place, using up a crazy amount of plates, getting a really nice shape to that build, and getting those iconic and really remarkable tally marks up on the helmet as well. But with all of that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, and comment down below in the comment section of what are your guys' thoughts on the Captain Rex helmet so far. But with all things considered, keep on building, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.